If you've looked into getting in-ear monitors for you or your band, you might have noticed that there are options for mono as well as for stereo in-ear monitors. How do you set those up? Which one is right for you and your band? And what are the pros and cons of each? That's what we're going to go over in this video. I'm also going to share my experience because I've used both mono and stereo. Right off the bat, the summary that I want you to take away from this video is that mono in-ear monitors are much cheaper to set up. Not just a little bit cheaper, but a lot cheaper. And then stereo in-ear monitors, of course, can sound better, but only if you do it in the right way, and I think a lot of people actually do it in the wrong way. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to do a giveaway of a stereo in-ear monitor system to one of my subscribers. So don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's go over the setup and what's needed with mono and stereo in-ear monitors. So I'm going to demo this on the BEHRINGER XR18 mixer, but with any mixer, the idea is still the same. So with a mixer, you're going to have your main left and right outputs, and that's what's going to go to the front of house sound, and that's what the audience is going to hear. But most mixers, especially digital mixers, will have some sort of aux or bus output. This is what you are going to plug your in-ear monitors into. Each of those will have a different mix, so each musician can hear what they want to hear. Also, if you are brand new to in-ear monitors, I do highly recommend you watch my beginner's guide to in-ear monitors before you continue with this video. But in order to get a mono in-ear monitor mix, you need to use one of the aux outs into your in-ear monitor system. So I'm going to take an XLR cable here from aux 1. I'm going to plug that into this wired in-ear monitor system right here. And I can give that to my drummer, for example. Doesn't matter if it's wired or wireless, one output for mono. I'm going to do the same thing for this wireless one. This is a portable wireless one by X5 that I've reviewed, and that is now for mix 2. I can give that to guitar player, for example. And then on this system right here, even if there are two inputs, I still just have to plug in one, and now I have a third mono in-ear monitor send. That's how you set it up in mono. Aux 1 will go to musician 1, aux 2 will go to musician 2, and aux 3 is going to go to musician 3. But what if you wanted to do it in stereo? Well, in stereo, you have to use two of the aux or bus outputs. So here's a wired one that has two inputs. This is a stereo in-ear monitor system. I'm going to plug two XLRs into this in-ear monitor system. Aux 1 and aux 2 are going to this in-ear monitor system in stereo now. A lot of these, especially wired ones, will have a switch for mono or stereo. Just make sure it is properly set to stereo. And then here's a stereo wireless in-ear monitor system. This is the Phenxy Pro PTM 10, which is a really good entry-level wireless in-ear monitor system. But I'm going to plug just one of these, aux 3, into the back of this in-ear monitor system here. Now, this one is just getting mono. So even though the system itself can be mono or stereo, this is going to be a mono in-ear monitor system. I would need to plug in the second XLR out of aux 4 into the second input of this system. So this one is currently set to stereo, and this one is currently configured for mono. You have to have two outputs in order to get stereo. And then just remember, when you configure your aux outputs or your bus outputs, you have to link the two aux outputs together. So this is the app that I use to control the mixer. I'm going to click bus 1, and I'm going to click this link button right here. And it's going to link the outputs for bus 1 and 2 together. Again, bus and aux will sometimes be used interchangeably here. And now they are configured properly for stereo. If you are not familiar with how to set up your in-ear monitor system, I do have a whole detailed video going over that. So if you are not familiar with how to set up your digital mixer for an in-ear monitor setup, that's the video that you want to watch. But if you're doing anything in stereo, you just have to make sure that you have linked those two bus or aux outputs together. And that's your general setup. Two things to keep in mind here is that one, just because a wireless in-ear monitor system has two inputs does not automatically mean that it is stereo. The Phenxy Pro PTM 11, not the 10 is a different one, but the PTM 11 has two inputs, but that is only a mono system. Also, the Shure PSM 200, which is a discontinued in-ear monitor system, I still see a lot of people still using it to this day. This has two inputs, but it is still just a mono in-ear monitor system. Some stereo in-ear monitor systems I recommend are the Phenxy Pro PTM 10, the Audio Technica ATW 3255, the Sennheiser XSW in-ear monitors, the Sennheiser EW in-ear monitors, the Shure PSM 300, 900, or 1000 series. And some examples of some mono systems are the X5 U4 series, the Phenxy Pro PTM 11 or 33. Both of those are just mono systems. Also, most of the ones, the really cheap ones that you find on Amazon, most of them are mono as well. just always check. So for example, here's one by Deborah. One of them is mono and one of them is stereo. So just make sure you're checking to make sure you know which one that you're getting. And the second thing to keep in mind is that if you do have a stereo in your monitor system, you actually can set that to mono. And this is actually one of the best ways to save money and rack space with your in-ear monitor systems, because what you can do if you have a stereo in your monitor system, you can use one stereo transmitter to send two separate mono mixes to two separate musicians. And I'll show you how to set this up here in a little bit. Okay, so that's the setup of it. Now remember how I said that mono is much, much, much cheaper. So in order to get stereo, you have to have one transmitter and one receiver for every stereo in your monitor system that you're going to have. If you have a 5-piece band, you're going to need 5 stereo in your monitor systems. Most bands, the drummer is going to be wired, so I'm just going to say we need 4 wireless stereo in your monitor systems, and then the drummer is going to have a wired in your monitor system. So let's go over the pricing. Now, the wired systems actually don't have a big price increase. For a single pack system, I like the F-Zone one. And the other one that I like that is in stereo that has 2 inputs is the Anlion S1. Both of those are $50. I'll have links to all of this stuff down below, FYI. So basically, wired is going to be the same price. But for wireless gear, let me show you why it's a lot cheaper to do mono. There are so many wireless in-ear monitor systems out there, and I've reviewed a lot of them on my channel. The main ones that I recommend is I really like the Audio Technica one. I have a whole video going over it. I think it is a hidden gem. It's a really good system at a really good price. As far as budget ones, I like the Phenxy Pro PTM 10. So those are the two that I'm going to do the price point on for this. But you can do the same math with the Shure or the Sennheiser systems or whatever system you're looking at. So you need 4 of the Audio Technica systems. Those are listed at $850. 850 times 4 is $3,400. And if you want to go with a budget system, the Phenxy Pro PTM 10s are about $230. So 4 of those is about $920. And actually, if you do use promo code ScottYoleMusic at checkout on the Phenxy Pro website, you get 5% off your order. So it's actually about $875. Details for that will be down below. And I know right off the bat, a lot of people are going to be like, well, why would I not just go with the budget ones in this case because of the price difference? The Audio Technica one is a much more professional wireless in-ear monitor system. You get way, way, way more channels with that system, as well as more features. It's definitely a higher end system. Again, watch my videos on both, but it is a much better system than the budget one. Now, if you wanted to do this in mono, remember, you can get 1 transmitter and 2 receivers for 2 separate mono mixes for 2 separate musicians. So in this case, your drummer is wired, but you only need to get 2 stereo transmitters and 4 of the body packs. So with the Audio Technica one, you can get an extra receiver for about $480. Hopefully at some point they have like a combo deal where you can get 1 system with 2 receivers. But regardless, it's still about half the price of getting a whole other system. And with the PTM 10, they actually sell it as a set where you can get 1 transmitter and 2 receivers. And that's listed at $305. So 2 of the Audio Technica transmitters with 4 of the receivers, that's going to be a total of $2,660. 2 of the PTM 10 systems with 4 of the body pack receivers, that's going to run you about $610. Again, if you use promo code ScottYoleMusic at checkout, you get 5% off your purchase, and that drops it down to about $580. So if you went with mono as opposed to stereo, that saves you about $740 with the Audio Technica system and just shy of $300 with the Phenxy Pro system. That's a decent chunk of money, right? But at the beginning of the video, I made it sound like, oh my God, mono is so much cheaper. This doesn't sound that bad, right? Well, you also have to think about the mixer that you're using and how many outputs it has. So again, going with our 5-piece band example, if you have a 5-piece band, all 5 musicians need a stereo in your monitor mix, you need to have 10 aux outs at least on your mixer. With mono, you only need to have 5. So let's look at some of these mixers. So the BEHRINGER or the Midas ones, if you look at the X12, the X13, or the X18, those do not have enough outputs to run 5 separate stereo in your monitor mixes. You'll need to get the X32 Rack, and that's going to cost about $1,000 more. The PRESONUS one probably has the smallest jump, but it's still going to cost you more. The STUDIOLIVE 16 does not have enough outputs, but the 24 and the 32 do. It's only about $300 or $400 more. But again, that's still a big jump from the cheaper BEHRINGER XR18, which is one of the more affordable ones, which you absolutely can do 5 mono mixes on that one. Again, I am applying this to a 5-piece band. If you have a 4-piece band and you want all stereo outputs, you just need 8 outputs. And if you're a 3-piece band, you just need 6 outputs. So for example, if you're a 3-piece band, the Behringer XR18, those have enough aux outputs for you. And do keep in mind, if you're always going to use your in-ear monitor mixer as a splitter, you're not ever running front of house sound, you can actually use the left and right main outputs as another in-ear monitor mix. So if you're using the Behringer XR18, you could have 3 different musicians plug into the 6 aux outs of that one, and then another musician can plug into the left and the right. I'm getting a little bit off topic on here. I just want to show you that you are able to do multiple different configurations based on your band's size and how many outputs you have. If you have a smaller band, you might be able to get away with it, but if you have a larger band, you're definitely going to need to spend more money to get a bigger mixer, and that's the main thing that I want you to take away from this. As I was editing this, all of the Behringer stuff just went on a massive sale. Like the Behringer X32 Rack is like $800 off. That's basically half price. Just wanted to let you guys know that they should be on sale when this video comes out. I'll have links down below if you want to check these out. Some pretty insane deals right now. So it's starting to add up, but still doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, right? Well, if you have this many wireless systems in a rack, you also are going to need some sort of antenna combining system. One mistake that a lot of musicians make with wireless gear is they have a bunch of antennas sitting in a rack, and it makes an antenna farm. It's not always going to guarantee dropouts, but it will increase the chances that your wireless gear isn't going to work. So some people say if you have more than 2 wireless, you need to do a combiner or a distribution system. The difference between the two is that in-ear monitors need a combiner, and then wireless like microphones and guitars and stuff like that, they need a distribution system. I actually say if you have more than 3 wireless in a rack, in that case, 4 or more, you're going to need to do some sort of antenna combining. And yes, that does include if there's a wireless microphone or something like that in your rack as well. That does count as one of the wireless systems. Again, you don't want to add to the antenna farm. But looking at the pricing, so the ones for Shure and Sennheiser are about $750. The one by RF Venue is about $800. And then usually you want to get some sort of paddle antenna or a directional antenna. This isn't required, but it definitely helps. It's an antenna that focuses directly where you want it to pick up and where you want it to ignore the signal. So obviously you don't need the antennas to transmit or pick up from behind the stage. So that's what's nice about a directional antenna. Again, not required, but if you are doing something like this, I'm showing you how to do it the right way or the best way possible. Those antennas are usually about $350 or something like that. So you're looking at about another $1,000, $1,100 to add with the combining as well. That's for a stereo system. Now, if you're a 5-piece band and you're doing it all in mono, you just need 2 transmitters with 4 receivers, and then your drummer is likely wired. With 2 wireless in-ear monitor systems, you likely do not have to have a combiner. So it's another spot where it saves you if you just do it in mono. I do have a video going over how I used a passive combiner. Now, a passive combiner can only be used with 2 in-ear monitor systems, and this combiner is only $100. It's way cheaper to do it that way. If you do it with just 2 systems, you can do it passively. If you do it with more, you have to use an active combiner. Again, check out my video on that. That's not required, but it definitely helps, and I'm definitely glad that I have that, and now I have a directional antenna as well. But again, all of this is starting to add up. I'm just going to do this just for simple math. I'm just going to do this just with the Audio Technica system. If you have a 5-piece band and you're trying to have multiple wireless systems, they all need to be stereo, you shouldn't be looking at the budget stuff anyways. The Phenx Pro one is great for budget and hobby bands and smaller bands and stuff like that. If you want a really good in-ear monitor system like this, you want to do it right, you want to have a professional wireless in-ear monitor system. So I'm just going to do this with the Audio Technica one. So with the stereo transmitters and the receivers, plus the mixer, plus the combiner, you're looking at just about $6,000. That's to do it in stereo. If you're looking at doing it with mono, 2 transmitters, 4 receivers, a smaller mixer, and you don't need a combiner, you're looking at about $3,460. Let's actually just say it's half price because you also have to get a bigger rack that fits all of these extra transmitters as well as the combiner. So let's just make it simple math and just say it's basically half the price to do mono. It's basically double the price in order to do stereo. And just to drive the point home even further, remember the stereo Audio Technica system is $6,000. Doing a mono setup with the Phenx Pro system will be about $1,300. So you can see how massive the savings is here. The reason why I'm showing you this is, remember, if you're doing multiple wireless, you need to save up and get higher end wireless. But if you're looking to do this as a budget one, that's where you can use some of the cheaper wireless stuff. Do not buy a bunch of cheap wireless and try to do this. It will cause more problems. But do you see how big the savings is? Now, it's up to you to make that decision. If you need it to be stereo, that's your personal preference. I'm just trying to show you that you are going to have to save up the money in order to get a stereo system. So how do you do that one transmitter to two receiver trick? I'm going to show you how to do that now. Just FYI, if you are finding this video helpful, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It truly does help support the channel, feed the YouTube algorithm gods, and I would appreciate it. And consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this in the future. So the first step is to make sure that your in-ear monitor transmitter is set to stereo. Whatever system you're using, just make sure you go into some menu somewhere and make sure that it is set to stereo. So on the back, you're still going to plug in both of the XLRs into the left and right input on the back of the transmitter. The left is going to be for musician A and the right is going to be for musician B. I'm going to show you how to configure that now with the receivers. So musician A, this is musician A's belt pack. I'm going to go into here under the Audio Technica. It's under audio, but just check whatever system you're using. You want to make sure that it is set to mono. Just make sure it's not set to stereo. You have to set the transmitters to stereo, and then you set the receiver belt packs to mono. So this one I'm going to set to mono balance. And then under the balance or panning or something like that, I'm just going to make sure that this one is panned all the way to the left, 100% to the left. Because remember, musician A is plugged into the left on the back of that Audio Technica transmitter. This is the second one. This is going to be for musician B. I'm going to do the exact same steps, make sure that it's set to mono. And this one, I'm going to pan all the way to the right. I make sure that it's panned 100% to the right. And now it is configured. Musician A is going to get a mono signal of whatever is plugged in to the left channel. So if that's coming out of aux 1, that is musician A's mix. And then musician B is going to hear the mix of whatever is plugged into the right input. The number one question I get asked about this is, does that mean I'm only going to hear sound in one earbud? No, you'll hear it in both earbuds. If you are only hearing it in one earbud, that means somewhere your body packs are still set to stereo. Make sure that they're set to mono and you will hear them in both ears. Okay, so last but not least, is stereo truly that much better? Is it worth it to spend all this extra money in order to get stereo? I've used both mono and stereo, so I'm familiar with using both of them. So first of all, stereo is better only if you actually utilize the fact that you can pan. So with your in-ear monitors, if you can pan, you can have one guitar pan this way, another guitar pan this way. You can have your vocals separated. You can put the snare a little bit over this way. You can just utilize the stereo field. What a lot of people do when they get stereo in-ear monitors is they plug them in, they plug in both of them, they have it set to stereo, and they go, oh my God, this is so much better, and do no panning whatsoever. Everything is still coming down dead center. And their mind tells them, oh, this is so much better because it's stereo. Stereo is better than mono. But if you don't actually utilize the panning, there's actually no point in running stereo. For me personally, where I find that stereo is really helpful is when you have multiple vocalists. With my 90s cover band, we have our lead singer, and then myself and the drummer, we do backup vocals. When we do mono, it's not as easy to hear that separation, but when we do it in stereo, and we do it in stereo when I bring my X32 Rack, when we have to do a split, it is really nice because I'll have my lead vocalist pan this way, my drummer pan this way, and then I'm dead center. I obviously like to have myself usually centered. Here's an actual screenshot of my in-ear monitor mix. So you can see my panning here. This is my actual mix. So click cues, bass, and tracks, I all have just dead centered. So let's just focus on the other ones. You can see mostly with mine, I'm pretty much dead center, especially with my vocals. I pan my guitar just slightly to the left, but then Tony, our lead vocalist, is panned pretty far to the right, and then our drummer Rick is panned pretty far to the left, which helps a lot that I can hear all three of our voices when we're doing harmonies and stuff like that. That's really helpful. Kick is also dead center, and then snare and like the sample pad, I pan just a little bit. Our kazoo I have panned pretty far. Same with the acoustic guitar, I have panned pretty far. When I play in mono, I have to turn up more of my vocals, my guitar, and then the click and the cues, because those are the most important things that I need to hear. With stereo, I can get more of everybody. With stereo, I can get more of basically everyone. With mono, I kind of just turn up the most important parts that I need to hear. In general, having that stereo separation can definitely be very helpful, especially when you utilize that panning and you hear the vocalist in slightly different areas, especially if you're all singing together. That can be really, really helpful. For me personally, it seems to be best if you have stereo effects and you're using them correctly, or if you have multiple singers, or just a bigger band in general. But again, that's going to cost you more money, especially with that big of a band, especially having that many outputs. So ultimately, it's up to you. If you find yourself a little bit more constricted in mono, or you can't hear much separation, switching to stereo can definitely be worth it, as long as you have the budget for it. So hopefully this video has given you enough information that you can make that decision for yourself. There's not a right or wrong answer here. just which works best for you. So I hope that helped you guys out. If you guys did find this helpful, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It truly does help support the channel and feed the YouTube algorithm gods, and I would appreciate it. So I did say I was going to do a giveaway to one of my subscribers. I am going to give away this stereo system. This is the Anlion S3 wireless in-ear monitor system. I did review this one a while ago. This is a good entry-level in-ear monitor system. I do have a review going over it if you are interested, but it is a stereo system. I always try to do a giveaway to my subscribers as often as I can. It's been a little while since I've done one, so I wanted to make sure to get one in. In order to win the giveaway, there's two things. First, you have to be a subscriber. So if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. And then second, you have to leave a comment down below and you have to use the magic phrase. You can say whatever you want down below in the description, just as long as you use the magic phrase. And the magic phrase for this week is Westworld. I'm rewatching the show. I love the show. Let me know in the comment section if you're a fan of just the first season or if you actually enjoyed the other seasons like I did. I know a lot of people say they only like the first season, but I actually really liked all of them. But yeah, that's the magic phrase. I will announce the winner on this date right here. I will respond to their comment as well as leave a pinned comment with who the winner is and post it in my community tab. Please just remember that I will never ever ask you for money, period. Scammers will show up sometimes when I do giveaways. Just know that if anyone messages you, they say that they're me, and then they start asking you for money for shipping or whatever dumb reason that they list. If they ask you for money in any way, that is a scammer. Do not send scammers money. If you do want to check out a video on that Audio Technica in your monitor system that I recommend, I do have a video going over that. If you are interested in how I do a passive combiner, I also have a video going over that. You can check out both those videos by clicking the links on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Let me know in the comment section how you run your in-ear monitors. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottUMmusic. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.